with some breaking news on the 2020 race. Senator Cory Booker is out. The senator making that announcement online just moments ago. I'm joined now from Iowa by NBC News road warrior Ali Vitale. Also with me, Michael Starr Hopkins. He's a Democratic strategist who worked on the campaigns of Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and John Delaney. Ali, I'll start with you there. This news coming just a day before that next big Democratic debate. We know that Senator Booker was not going to be on the debate stage. What more do we know about why he's getting out now?
Craig, you're right about the timing of this. We're here in Iowa, a state where Cory Booker spent a lot of time campaigning here as a candidate. The debate stage tomorrow night was going to be critical, especially with that impeachment trial looming. That would were in this race out of places like Iowa and put them in Washington, D.C. for that trial. All of that factored in. And Craig, we often talk about the money that's needed, the lifeblood of these campaigns. Your control room can pull up on the screen a piece of this message from Cory Booker where he says that in a Medium post, they've reached the point where they need more money to scale their campaign, and they don't have it now, but that given not being on the debate stage tomorrow night, and not being able to be out on the campaign trail during the impeachment trial, that making that money is going to be harder. And that's what they need if they're going to continue scaling both here in Iowa, but also across the board, because this race, of course, does not end here. And I want to let you listen to a little bit of what Cory Booker is saying today about how he feels about ending this campaign. Listen.
Today, I'm suspending my campaign for president with the same spirit with which it began. It is my faith in us together as a nation, that we share common pain and common problems that can only be solved with a common purpose and a sense of common cause.
But I also want to just take you back on what he was when he was a candidate in this race. He was a big voice for diversity. He was one of the few candidates of color who was left in this race after Kamala Harris dropped out, after Julian Castro dropped out. Cory Booker really picked up the mantle, talking about how one of the most diverse fields in the history of the Democratic Party came down to white candidates at the top of it. Of course, Cory Booker wasn't going to be on that debate stage tomorrow night. You're going to have an all-white debate stage. He was a very vocal critic of how the party let it get to that point. But I have to just say also, from being out here on the campaign trail, Craig, campaigning for president is hard. Not that these candidates complain about it, but we see them every single day. It's tiring out here to continuously do this slog of campaign events, especially when you're not gaining traction and you know you're fighting for your life. Cory Booker never let it show. I have to tell you that out here on the campaign trail, he was always someone who brought energy, brought optimism, was always quick with a selfie with supporters, and always there to answer a question from reporters. So obviously that's a voice now, no longer in this race, Craig.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.